good mechanic you would recommend me to? Do you have a good doctor, a family doctor, a dentist that you'd say, oh, you got to go see them? Maybe a tool and a company that you'd say, oh, they are the best at this. Is there a restaurant that always delivers? You say, oh, you got to go to dinner there. Or maybe a good TV series that I should be binge watching while we're in COVID land endlessly. When we find something that we can rely upon, when we find something that is consistent and steadily amazing, we talk about it. And this is so true in our own life when it comes to being consistent and steady at what we do. If you're the kind of person that's consistent, get ready for God to use you in ways that would bring impact to things that we wouldn't normally find if we're just being impulsive or reactive. When it comes to being generous, there are some stories that will only come forth out of years of persistence and steadiness. This is something we see over and over again in the first followers of Jesus in the New Testament. We see Paul giving these beautiful words out of 2 Corinthians 9, verse 7. He says, each of you should give what you've decided to give in your heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. You know, this little commandment that Paul's giving the first followers of Jesus, it's a hard commandment to obey. I wish he just said, go ahead and give. Just decide to give and give. But he says that the qualifier is we need to give not reluctantly or under compulsion, and we need to do it cheerfully. How do you obey that? How do you make that true about yourself? I mean, if God asks me to give, I can do it. It's black and white. It's yes or no. But if God asks me to be generous, that's like something I have to become, isn't it? God, it says, is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all you need, you'll abound in every good work. He's pointing us to a lifestyle, not just a decision. The first followers of Jesus decided to be consistent givers, and that's how God was able to provide abundantly and over years of impact. You know, that passage we just read came out of 2 Corinthians, and the Corinthians were a group of Christians Paul was trying to lead and help people find Jesus through. And Paul had to give a lot of time to Corinth and those people, and the only way Paul was even able to do that is that behind him were consistent givers, the Macedonian churches, the Philippians, the Thessalonians, the Bereans, and others. They all consistently financially supported Paul in his ministry work, predominantly to the Corinthians. And it was that steadiness and that consistency that always seemed rare back then and is even more rare today in our modern world that allowed God to use Paul and the Corinthian church to leave a legacy. That even beyond Paul's life and beyond the life of the Corinthians and all those crazy Bible names we don't know how to say, that God uses them still today in their generosity beyond their years, beyond their geography, beyond their lifetime. What is going on in your life right now that is begging you, requiring you, asking of you to just endure, to just be persistent and to be steady? How can you and I decide today that instead of making a dramatic decision or a reactive decision, maybe we just need to lean in and be more steady, more persistent, more consistent when it comes to generosity? Maybe there's room in our life and in our heart that we need to be consistent givers, not because money is all that's important, but because becoming generous like that consistently opens the doors for stories and impact that go well beyond our own lifetime. Sometimes the only way for God to use us long term is if there is a steadiness, a commitment to consistent giving on our behalf that allows us to become not just a generous person, but to create churches that are generous for lifetimes to come.